The following is general advice only and should not be construed as accounting, legal, or any other professional advice. The details of your situation are fact dependent, and you are advised to seek the help of a competent professional. And we are back. What's happening, everyone? Welcome back to another action-packed edition of CPA Reviewed. As always, I am your humble host, Jeff Elliott, a licensed CPA in the state of Kansas. And on today's show, we have a special guest. And our guest is David Kohanek, and he is with LinkedInsideout.com. And David is a LinkedIn expert. David, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me, Jeff.
Well, thank you for coming on. As I read the forums, and of course, people on Another 71, they want to pass the CPA exam, but they also want to get a better job, and they have questions about resumes and recruiters and LinkedIn. And so I wanted to have you on the show today to kind of discuss LinkedIn and some strategies and some do's and don'ts. But before we get started, David, why don't you tell us a little bit about your background and about yourself and how you got into this whole LinkedIn thing?
Yeah, you bet. So I guess I'll start from the beginning. Out of school, I actually worked for Arthur Andersen for almost 9 years. Now, this was sort of the pre-Enron days. But I was in on the consulting side of things. And so I'm very familiar with how the large firms work. And at that time, that was the largest professional services firm in the world. And I had left Andersen to actually go do an M&A deal. We acquired a company. We raised some money and acquired a company that was in the internet space. So this was back in the dot-com boom. Mm-hmm. And then after that, I was an executive recruiter for about 5 years. So I had this interesting combination of really understanding internet technology as well as executive recruiting, which then led to the acquisition of Job Search Digest. So I'm the publisher of JobSearchDigest.com, which is a site that is for investment professionals that are looking to either change or advance their career. We specialize in private equity and venture capital, hedge funds, as well as investment banking. And that sort of led to the whole LinkedIn thing, which was we were looking for a training program that our members could use that would really help them get an advantage in their careers by using LinkedIn. And we went out and did the research on all the available training that's out there, and we found there simply wasn't one of the quality that we were looking for. So we created it. We went through and did all the research on the best practices and filtered out the bad advice that's out there. And Jeff, I got to tell you, there's a lot of bad advice out there on LinkedIn, and came up with LinkedIn Inside Out, and that program is for professionals. It's sort of the industrial grade, if you will, training program for LinkedIn.
Awesome. Just to back up, how did you go from Arthur Andersen into recruiting?
Well, so it was actually a two-step. So I had the entrepreneurial itch when I was at Andersen. Had talked to the partners to say, hey, I'm looking to buy a company. They said, no, we want you to stay. And then they said, well, if you're really intent on leaving, we'll help you look for something. And that's when we had acquired a division actually of a Fortune 1000 software company. And then from there, after I did the typical 2 and out after an acquisition, so we sold our firm. That's when I was looking for something that I could really sink my teeth into, and that was the executive recruiting game. So I did that, like I said, for about 5 years.
I got you. And then you started Job Search Digest while you were in recruiting, or was that after?
Yeah. So and I guess that's part of this whole sort of the how this all came together. So while I was doing executive recruiting, I did an awful lot with LinkedIn, and this was in the early days of LinkedIn, so there were nowhere near as many members as they have today. But as an executive recruiter, I wrap my arms around, hey, how do I take advantage of this tool to find the people to hire? And I was in it every single day and used that tool to help identify candidates. Then I was looking for sort of that next level opportunity, and I went out and actually acquired JobSearchDigest.com.
Okay. I was listening to a podcast with Peter Thiel the other day. He was one of the founders of PayPal, and he's an angel investor. And basically, back in the day, LinkedIn was really just about getting a job, but now it's grown into this social media force. How have you seen LinkedIn kind of evolve over the last few years?
Here's my take on it. Having been in it very early, and I think I've been on LinkedIn now for about 8 years. I'd have to go back and see the when I first created the profile, but back then it really was about, who's on this, and it tended to be people that were leaning more towards the technology side of things, and it was in essence an online resume and not much more than that. Over the years, of course, it caught on in popularity. LinkedIn also is a publicly held company, so they have revenue goals that they've got to hit, and so you see their model, the business model of LinkedIn changed as well. So now they have LinkedIn ads, and of course they've got multiple premium accounts. You can get an account as a job seeker, you can get an account as executive recruiter, you can have an account as a salesperson. They have a sort of a separate offering for that. So probably 9 or 10 different versions of premium accounts. And that, if you look at LinkedIn and how it's evolved, it went from just a resume online to something that's really trying to emulate this Facebook-like social network. And it's done really well in some areas and maybe not so well in others. But they're getting their bumps and bruises. So they have these things, for instance, called activity. And at one point, they were sort of forcing that, and it was always at the top of your profile. A la Facebook, right? Because they said, okay, it worked for Facebook, it must work for our folks. Well, that didn't last very long, right? The feedback from the LinkedIn users was, hey, first and foremost, we're looking to find people. We're not really looking to, quote unquote, get social. That said, where there's an opportunity on LinkedIn is to really set yourself apart. So in this professional network, who are the real professionals? Where are they hanging out? And what value are they adding? And that's the things that we teach, right? It's how do you set yourself apart so that you become the go-to person when somebody's looking to either solve a problem or fill a talent gap in their organization.
So what's your opinion on LinkedIn's premium services? You brought that up. I have some sort of a premium LinkedIn account. I couldn't tell you which one. I don't use it very often. For your average accountant, CPA, business person, should they have a premium service?
Yeah, here's my take on this, Jeff. I think there's a couple situations where it makes sense, and you can get a lot of value from LinkedIn without being a premium member, and I've said that before. But for instance, if you're in a situation where you're looking for a new position, what the premium option does is it gives you some additional, a handful of additional search options that will help filter the contacts to get right what you're looking for. Alternatively, if you are a practicing CPA and you're looking to build your practice and connect with people, again, there's those additional handful of features that will help get you some additional contacts. The ability to filter by, and off the top of my head, I'd have to go back and look at our training to look at the specifics. But things like finding people in certain areas or with certain titles or with sort of combination of factors, that it really makes it easy to take a very large list of potential people and bring those down to a very targeted list of potential contacts.
I know that people make resume mistakes. I know that people make social media blunders. Do you have like a set of do's and don'ts on LinkedIn, some guidelines that people can follow?
Yeah, well, it seems like the more we study, the more the don'ts list grows.
Right.
People do things on LinkedIn that I just shake my head and say, remember, this is a professional network. So right. The first do is be the professional, right? Don't do things that are clearly unprofessional. I'll give you an example, and we've shared this example before with our members, and that is, there was a comment made, a fairly controversial article was written about race in the MBA programs. And somebody had made a comment about, sort of the Asian tiger mom and that whole thing. And Jeff, people were jumping on that comment. And it's one thing to have an opinion about, to say, hey, that's racist, or to say, you're just jealous, or whatever it is. But this thread just went on and on with people calling each other names and all this. And I look at that and say, folks, did you forget where you were?
Right.
On LinkedIn, when you make a comment on somebody's article or on somebody's content that they publish on LinkedIn, that's there for everybody to see, and it's not there anonymously. It's not like the internet trolls out there that will get on a forum and just start doing. It's actually tied to your profile, so people can see who you are, and that's an absolute don't. You do not want to get involved in emotional back and forth. That doesn't make any sense at all. The do side of things is, you do want to be involved in conversations that are relevant to your industry, that are relevant to your function, that are relevant to your career path, and you want to be adding value at every turn so that people see, oh yeah, that Jeff guy really knows what he's talking about. That was a tough question that was asked there, and a lot of people were responding to it, but really it was Jeff's comment that moved to the top in terms of the value that it added. You want to be that person. You don't want to be one of the internet trolls on LinkedIn, because it absolutely hurts you, and it hurts you not just today, it hurts you long term. And Jeff, that's one of the things that I absolutely want your audience to understand, is that do not treat LinkedIn as the short-term get a job tool.
Right.
That's the wrong way to go about it. You want to treat it as a long-term asset. Think about every piece of content, every time you update your profile, every group that you join, you're building this long-term asset that's going to help you far beyond just your next job. Because I think LinkedIn is here to stay. I think we'll still be talking about it 10 years from now. And you want your profile to be rich with great content that positions you as the go-to person. So you've got to build it up that way, and that doesn't happen overnight.
David, do you think that, so like on LinkedIn, you can write an original column, or you can share content. You can share some article. Do you think that the types of things that you share, or the sources that you share, say something about you as a person?
Yeah, and this actually hits on a bigger issue, Jeff. So the short answer is absolutely yes, right? Because what you choose to share and who you choose to share is an indication of where you're coming from and the sources that you trust, and what you find interesting, and how you filter that vast amount of information out there, and what you find important. But it's the bigger issue here is, you are trying to position yourself as that go-to person, and you want to be adding value. Sometimes that value comes from your personal experience, your industry expertise, your functional expertise. Sometimes you find value, either inspirational or technical, in other people's content. and you want to share that with people who are connected with you. And that makes a lot of sense. The thought of using LinkedIn as a long-term asset for you includes not just the content that you're producing on there, but also who your contacts are. And there are different viewpoints on this. Get as many contacts as you can because that helps you in the search. And this, I'm not a believer in that. My take on LinkedIn, and I'll give you a little bit of history again, because I've been around LinkedIn for so long. I saw the transition. My take on LinkedIn is you want to treat your LinkedIn network as you would your regular network, your offline network. So Jeff, if you say, hey, David, I see you're connected with Joe over here, and I'd love for you to make an introduction. And I look at Joe and I'm like, okay, he's in my network, but I've never talked to him. I've never met him. I've never emailed him, and I've never had a phone conversation with him, but he's in my network. Well, how is that connection valuable, right? How does that help you? I can't really introduce you. So my rule is people in my network are people that I know, like, and trust, just like people who are in my real life network. Now, there's people out there that say, no, that's absolutely wrong. You want to maximize your connections. I don't believe it. And I don't believe that LinkedIn wants you to do that either. And here's why. When I first joined LinkedIn, it was all about scorekeeping. It was how many connections could you have? And they used to show people had 5,000, 10,000, 20,000 connections. But you see what they show now, right? 500 plus.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
LinkedIn, they were tired of this game. They didn't want people playing this game of saying, oh, look, I've got 25,000. No, you don't. You don't have 25,000. You have 25,000 people that you spammed out, or they spammed you, and you just said, okay, fine, connect. Because you didn't really have a plan for your LinkedIn profile. And so that's how you did it. So LinkedIn wanted to put a stop to those shenanigans, if you will. And they just said, fine, we'll just cap it at 500. That way, this whole game of who's got more connections just goes out the window. And that's an indicator of what LinkedIn wants you to do on LinkedIn, right? By them capping that, they don't want it to be how many Twitter followers, how many likes in Facebook, how many fans. It's not a competition that way. It's about adding value in the network online, and then them offering you the premium services so you can get even more value from building that network and leveraging that network. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. But now that we're talking about this, so I have kind of an open policy. Anyone who wants to add me on LinkedIn, I accept them. Now I am a business owner. Now hopefully I won't be in the position of being a job seeker in the future, but if I am, maybe I'll have to change this. But does your open connections philosophy, is it different for business owners versus job seekers, or should I maybe do some unfriending or unlinking myself?
No, so it does make a difference. If you are a business owner and you are, so let's talk about Another 71. So you've got Another 71, you've got thousands of members, people that are following and paying attention to you. You've got your podcast, you've got all those things. So you're saying that's fine. I'm the lead guy there, and this is one way that you can connect with me. Another way that you can connect with me, but in the grand scheme of things, what percentage of people are in your position, right? It's a very small percentage, a tiny percentage. Right. For the typical CPA they've passed the exam, maybe they're in their first position as a CPA, maybe they're looking for their first position, they want to be thinking differently. They don't want to be thinking like I'm just trying to have this broad audience, because if they were to ask for a connection, for an introduction, and I know because I get these where people say, hey, I'd love to get introduced to this person. I'm like, okay, I don't even know who you are, first off, but within my network, I kind of protect it a bit. I'm going to think about my reputation every time I connect somebody.
Now, David, I know that you have some training on how CPAs can get hired on LinkedIn. Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So from our conversation, Jeff, earlier, we went through and we said, look, what would be most helpful to the Another 71 audience? And what we wanted to do is we wanted to put together some training that would really help you understand the importance of LinkedIn, being able to set yourself up and create a plan for success. So what I talked about earlier of, sort of begin with the end in mind, how to properly set up your account, what to do with your profile to optimize it, how to build your network, how to do some of the job search on LinkedIn, and then basically a method of optimizing the profile and then reaching out and building your network. And all within the sort of the financial professional mindset, right? So your audience is CPAs. CPAs have a very specific certification, unlike other industries that don't necessarily have that. So how do you set yourself apart from every other CPA out there? And we've pulled together some training. It's about an hour and 15 minutes, maybe an hour and a half of good packed content that we're going to provide for your audience here in this upcoming online training session. People overcomplicate LinkedIn. There's so many features and functions that are available to you. It gets overwhelming pretty quickly. We boil it down to two things. One is your profile, and the other is your network. And in this training, what we'll do is we will walk you through specifically what people are seeing from the privacy side of things. We'll talk about this 80-20 approach. What are those best practices, the quick hit things that you can do to make sure that you've got a professional profile that's getting found. We'll give you a checklist of things to do to make sure that your profile is professional. We'll give you specific examples of things not to do, literally screenshots of what people have done, and we'll show you not to do that. We also talk about this concept of a USP, a unique selling proposition, and how that should be built into your LinkedIn profile so that when somebody finally does find you on LinkedIn, there's no question that they need to talk to you. They need to get connected with you to learn more. We go through things like how do you get a professional looking picture quickly? And Jeff, it's amazing to me. Again, so many profiles where you can see the arm of somebody else at the wedding wrapped around somebody and they just cropped out their picture.
Yeah.
It's amazing to me. Remember, folks, it's a professional network. So we'll talk about that. We'll talk about how do you publish your activity? How do you publish your content out there, and where do you publish it? Because that's the other thing, is that it's not so much about the quantity as it is about the quality that's on your profile. So we go through all of that, and if somebody invests the hour and a half with us, I absolutely guarantee that they're going to find a tremendous amount of value there, and they're going to get some actionable, quick hit items that they can put to use right away. And Jeff, so if people are interested in getting that free training, what we'll do is we'll set up a link for your audience. They can go to jsdlink.com/71. Again, that's jsdlink.com/71, and that'll take them to the page to get registered for the training.
Awesome. Well, David, thank you again for being on. Some helpful things. I learned a lot myself, and I might need to go unlink from some people, or at least make sure I don't have any shady characters in my network. So, and also maybe scour my comments, make sure I haven't said anything that I shouldn't have.
There you go. Well, and so again, it sort of depends on your goals, right? If controversial comments drives additional traffic to your particular site and then it might make perfect sense to take that approach. So again, you just begin with the end in mind. What are your goals? And then you execute on a plan that helps you achieve those goals.
Well, perfect. Well, thanks again, David. Thanks for coming on.
You bet. Thanks so much, Jeff. Thanks for having me.
Well, that does it for this episode of CPA Reviewed. Thank you again to David Kohanek for coming on. And again, please check out his training on how CPAs get hired on LinkedIn. And again, you can go to jsdlink.com/another71. That's another 71. So JSD, like LSD, link.com/another71. And I highly recommend that you invest that hour and a half of your time. And even if you come away with just 3 things to change on your LinkedIn profile, it will be well worth the effort. So again, everyone, thanks again for listening. Be good, take care, and I will talk to you soon.
The scars and pain can no longer